search for the gunman who killed the UnitedHealthcare CEO in Midtown is now intensifying, and there are new images of a person of interest in the case unmasked and smiling at a hostel on the Upper West Side. But many questions still remain unanswered today. CBS News law enforcement contributor, former deputy commissioner with the NYPD, Richard Esposito, has been following the case with us every step of the way. Richard, welcome back. I know it's been a very busy week for you since this whole thing went down. We're learning more each day about the timeline of the shooter's actions ahead of the attack, but still no arrests after that man was shot dead on the city sidewalk just the other day. Do you think that this process is kind of running its course? Do you think it's taking too long? Are you surprised they haven't apprehended him yet with the information that the NYPD has?
You know, Chris, we learned last night the police have put together a series of over 200 images of this man by now. So the investigation is going to come to a successful conclusion. They're confident of that. But we've also learned that at this juncture, obviously, it's a multi-jurisdiction national search. So it will certainly involve federal authorities now, and the NYPD will remain in charge of the homicide. But I'm pretty confident that this will come to a good conclusion.
Richard, I know when this first transpired, there was some talk that maybe this was a professional hit. I think the more that we're seeing and the more that this suspect has been caught on camera, and obviously we see staying in a hostel, photographed with a mask off, professional probably wouldn't be the best way to describe this shooter. What's the next train of thought for the NYPD? For you professionals, if it's not a professional, what are we then thinking?
Well, you know, it's obviously someone who's competent. It's obviously someone who's thought through most of his steps. Obviously, taking your mask off, going to a Starbucks aren't the marks of a professional. What the next steps are identifying where the person is from. They knew he took a bus from Atlanta to New York. Identifying a motive. And certainly there's a possible one. He wrote words on some of the shell casings that indicate a great deal of anger towards the insurance industry. Now, that's a possible motive, of course. And so they're going to look for someone with those reasons. But most of all, they've got a pattern of life now, and they're looking for a name.
And Richard, what is the search inside of Central Park like right now? Because the one thing, we just showed video of the suspect when he emerged from Central Park on that city bike moments after the shooting with no backpack, having gone into the park with the backpack, apparently, or at least when he left the scene, he still had the backpack just a few blocks from from Central Park. How vital is that? Not only finding the weapon, which has not been found yet, or whatever the contents of that backpack were.
So it's important. I think they have enough evidence that they're putting together a picture where one piece isn't vital, but that backpack could have touched DNA, that backpack could contain clothing, that backpack could contain information or a weapon. So it's an intense search. Like
you had mentioned, the words deny, defend, written on shell casings recovered from the scene. When you talk about the premeditation of this attack, and just the thought that went into this, what does that tell police about this type of suspect?
Well, if it's not steering you in the wrong direction, it tells you this is someone who's deeply angry, deeply upset, someone who has a personal grudge, and someone who's hurt. Why he picked the CEO of this company, that's a question that remains open.
Also seems like a pretty big risk to take for this suspect to do something like that. If you're going to commit an act like this and leave a clue like that behind. With that said, are you surprised that there is as much? I mean, I know there's talk of potential DNA on a coffee cup or a wrapper from that Starbucks where he was photographed, the cell phone that was reportedly dropped in the alleyway where he had his escape. Are you surprised that there is as much evidence this soon in this case?
No, I think I'm not surprised. I think were it a professional, there'd be far less, but it's not a professional, and it is someone who left clues that may or may not have been apparent to him, but are the kind that the police department go and gather in all crimes.
It does, once again, though, just kind of to ring home the point that you really can't get away with much, especially in Manhattan, with all of the cameras that exist, the video that was able to be released, or the images, the expediency with which they were able to do that. Obviously, I know that is aiding the NYPD and getting the word out, which is what you need to do in order to apprehend a suspect like this who's in the wind.
Yeah, 200 images or more have been gathered of the suspected gunman. And it's not easy to escape surveillance, certainly in Midtown Manhattan, where you have hotels, retail stores, lots of places with private cameras throughout the area.
And let me just one final question for you, Richard, as it relates, and I know you can't really speak to security for pharmaceutical CEOs and things like that, but in the current climate of this society, when you've had people over the last 6 months that have taken shots at at President-elect Trump, for instance, there seems to be not a whole lot out there scaring people from trying to perpetrate an act of this magnitude. And for a CEO who's had reportedly bomb threats at his home and whatnot, and has been a target of some people out there that are obviously not happy with the healthcare industry, to not have security, does that surprise you that there's no security present for a gentleman like this?
It genuinely did surprise me to see him come. He's a man who makes almost $10 million a year, runs an enormous piece of a business that affects many, many people and is controversial. So it was surprising. If you look at the CEOs of big entertainment companies, big oil companies, they all have, whether it's a driver and a bodyguard, some physical security. They have risks.
Well, Richard, we again thank you for taking a couple of moments with us as you do each week, but I know it's been an extra special week because every time I put on the television, I've seen you opining on this, and we thank you for your services and helping us out on a week-to-week basis. Good to talk to you, Richard.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's great to see you.
You can follow every development in this case on our website at cbsnewyork.com.